So I'm happy to take some questions. I managed to finish this so we could have a lot of time for questions. Thank you. All right, who has a question? Yes. Are we going to have a microphone? Oh, here she comes. Right up here.
Thank you so much for your talk. I was wondering, are there different kinds of probiotic for different conditions? For example, like skin disease? Is there something else?
Yeah, we were talking about this before with a couple of us. There was no way in this time period that I could go into specific protocols and what to use. This is where you really do need to work with somebody who understands probiotics. And so a really high dose probiotic, for example, with a Crohn's patient who's bleeding out, would be devastating and make things worse instead of better. So you do have to match the probiotic with the person, then you have to change them up over time, and that sort of thing. So yeah, there's a whole science to that too. I have not written a book on this topic, and so you just have to read the medical literature. There's so much in the medical literature, and I would like to write more books, but it's difficult. It takes a lot of time. So instead, what we do is we create educational programming. We have 3,500 hours of programming at our company, and we have about 2,500 plus articles, like the ones I've mentioned about proton pump inhibitors and that sort of thing. And so we think that that's the easiest way to distill this in for consumers. So consumers who have these types of issues, that's one of the reasons they join Wellness Forum Health, is to have access to this type of data. And they know it's been really well vetted. Yeah, let's take this one.
Hi, Doctor. We enjoy your lecture very much. So.
Thank you.
And I would like to see your diet on a daily basis, let's say.
Okay. Well, first of all, I want to say I'm happy to tell you what I eat on a daily basis. I haven't necessarily been able to do exactly this here because of the time, but when I'm in my natural environment at home, the first thing I'll tell you is I don't have to worry about the cost of food, which is an issue. And the second thing is I live a mile from my office and I can go back and forth, and I own a food service operation. So I just want you to keep that in mind, all right? Because it facilitates my being able to do some things. But I'll start by telling you when I'm home, like if I've been home this morning, I go to the farmer's market on Saturday. And I buy as much produce as I can there. It's cheaper, by the way, and I like buying food from people who grow it. I like to support local farmers. The amount of food that I buy is pretty amazing. Like people are always asking me, are you a caterer? And I tell them, no, I will be eating all of this food by next week, and then I'll be back to buy more. And they go, wow, for a little girl, you really do eat a lot of food. I tell them, you have no idea. All right. So, and then the other thing, as soon as I go to the farmer's market, I have 3 places that I go for other stuff. Like I go to Trader Joe's and I go to a place called Meijer. It's a big superstore. Go to Kroger. And I don't go to all those places every week, but I rotate. Like every 3rd week I get to one of those places. And I buy other stuff you got to have, like salad dressings and that kind of thing. Okay, then I do a lot of batch cooking on Sunday because my day starts at 5 in the morning. Monday through Thursday it ends at 11 o'clock at night. And then on Saturday, it starts at 5 in the morning, and maybe I'm finished at 5 or 6. All right, so no time to cook. So here's the deal. I get up in the morning, and I make a smoothie that our company makes the ingredients for. I have 2 pieces of Ezekiel bread toast with fat-free hummus. And then that carries me through. It's deliberately a whole bunch of food because I need to get through my whatever I'm going to do for exercise in the morning. It's either running or a gym workout or going to hot yoga or something of that nature. All right, so at 11 o'clock, I eat lunch. And I make a salad, and it's sort of like, think about salad for 6, only I'm going to eat all of it, all right? And then I'm going to have something with it, like sweet potatoes or black bean chili or vegetable wraps or something that has sort of a starchy component because I need that calorie density, all right? At 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I have another meal. At 6 o'clock, I have another meal. The 2 big salad meals are lunch and dinner. And then, but I'm eating the things that I batch cooked at all these other meals. And so about 6 o'clock, I'll have another meal. And then I teach till 11 o'clock at night a lot of nights. And at 11, I'm hungry again, so time for more food. And a lot of times at night, one of my guilty pleasures is chocolate-flavored balsamic vinegar, which if you put it in the fridge, it gets syrupy. And so I'll have a big bowl of berries and fruit with that chocolate vinegar, and it's fabulous, really fabulous. So anyway, that's my daily eating pattern. It's big piles of food. big piles of food. Okay. Let's take this one over here. Yes, you.
Since everyone here is comfortable talking about bowel movements,
Yes, we are.
I have typically 3 a day, sometimes 4. My question is this too much of a good thing?
No, it's not. The other thing that we should point out is that everybody's not the same. So I find that some people think that having bowel movements is a competitive sport, and there's a certain quota that you must reach, and if you haven't achieved that quota, then there's something wrong with you, but that's not the way that it works. Everybody's a little bit different in that regard. And it can vary day to day. Some days you may eat a lot more fiber than other days, because our diets aren't exactly all the same every single day. So, yes.
I've developed a little bit of a skin problem on my face, a rosacea kind of thing. I don't think that's exactly what it is, but my doctor is telling me to change my diet and to kind of do a lot of what you guys are all talking about. What is the connection with the skin problems and the gut?
The connection with everything in the gut. In other words, your gut bacteria control what gets in your bloodstream, what stays out, controls your immune system. So there isn't a body function. There's nothing that goes on in your body that isn't in part related to the gut. And so often skin conditions are a reflection of what's going on inside, not the localized display of whatever it is. Okay. Let's right back there. Yes, you. Then we'll go back over to this side. I'm trying to be fair. Yeah.
Okay, I'm just curious. You're sharing about your late night snack and about small meals frequently through the day. What about some of the other information that we've heard that that cycle of I don't know technically what it's called, but it's digestion, allowing the body to rest. That truly allowing the body to fast and the breaks in between.
Well, show me the evidence. Remember the Tom Cruise movie? Show me the money. Show me the money. Right?
So
show
you're
me
saying that
show me
there
the
isn't
evidence.
evidence out there?
No. Well, here's the thing. I think this is another one where there's some reason to believe that this is a good idea for certain people with certain conditions. Intermittent fasting, for example, for cancer patients. But I don't really see any evidence showing that a person like me is going to benefit from making it harder for me to be me and do what I do by intermittent fasting. If I saw evidence indicating that would be the case, I would do it. One of the things that I would caution, I touched on this last night if those of you who were here or watching for the panel discussion, is we have got to stop making this so hard for people to do. All right? Sometimes I think we all sit at home and think of the hardest restrictions we can come up with, and can we still get people to get on board and do it? The goal here, if somebody's going to benefit from dietary change, you got to get them to do it for a long time. 20 days of dietary change doesn't change anything for anybody. We got to get people to do this for a long time. And setting up barrier after barrier after barrier to make it hard is not the way to make this happen. So my concern with intermittent fasting is without a lot of evidence to show that it makes a difference, if it's going to make people stop eating a plant-based diet and stick with it, I'd much rather people eat a diet like what I just described to you for 25 years than intermittent fast for 3 weeks and done. Back to cheeseburgers again. You know what I'm saying? So that's what my concern is with it. Not a lot of evidence to show that it makes a difference in the long term. A lot of hypotheses, but we really don't have that evidence. I'm open to looking at it, but we don't have it now. Okay, let's take somebody over here. Yeah, you got it. Okay.
Hello. I was wondering if you could comment on people with the HLA-B27 gene and with the Klebsiella infection, because they say that they cannot consume starches, so they completely do not want to do plant-based at all. It's like not even an option.
I disagree with it. I mean,
Thank
that's
you.
the most we'll say right now because it's kind of a technical topic to get into. But you get a lot of people locked in dogma. This goes to, well, I'll back up and say, there are some situations in which the normal diet for plant-based people should be a little bit different because of very, very specific situations, but this is not one of them. I think this is just people making up more reasons to eat animal food, in my opinion. Okay, somebody else over here since we took two over there. Okay, yes.
I just have a question about the probiotics. I understand that the really good probiotics have to be refrigerated. Is that accurate?
No,
It's
the
not.
biggest thing with probiotics is that the longer The distance between when they left the factory and when you put the first one in your mouth, the more degradation takes place. So you're better off with an unrefrigerated product 3 weeks from the factory than a refrigerated product where you don't know how long it.
And could I ask you the ratio, or could I ask you which you take yourself, or
Well,
that you recommend?
I don't want it doesn't make any difference because it would not apply necessarily to anybody here. What I'm telling you is that, I said this yesterday, most of the people coming into my office taking a probiotic are taking a product that can't ever help them. So do take the time to find somebody who can help you know what to take so that you actually benefit from the money that you spend. Okay.
And one more, sorry. Alkalized water, is that something also that you advocate?
Absolutely not. In fact, it's
Not?
dangerous, and I'll tell you
Really?
why. Your blood pH has to be between 7.35 and 7.45, period. Goes lower, you're going to die. Goes higher, you're going to die. So you spend a lot of time talking about metabolic acidosis. When you eat a diet so high in high acid load foods like animal foods, dairy, processed foods, that your body's constantly struggling to keep your blood pH from dropping under 7.35. Everybody understand that? All right. So your body starts borrowing minerals and like sodium and calcium from the bones. The bones is where your biggest store of calcium is, to buffer the acidity. Bad idea. Everybody agree? Okay. So now you consume this pH water of 8.5 or 9. Your pH can't go over 7.45 in the bloodstream. You're going to die, all right? So now your body's making all kinds of adjustments to keep you from going into alkalosis. And the other thing too, people think they're going to alkalize their body. You better pray that never happens. You need for the environment in your stomach to be very low pH. You need your blood to be in a specific range. And so this whole idea that you think you're going to alkalize your body is a fantastical idea that is not supported by science.
Okay, thank
Okay.
you.
All right, let's have one in the back. We always ignore the back. You right back there. Thank you.
Doctor, can we get as much bacteria through fermented foods?
No, absolutely not. That's another fantastical idea. Fermented foods do not contain bacteria. If you like sauerkraut, eat it. If you think that eating sauerkraut is going to restore your gut, it can't. Okay? To the extent that sauerkraut can be part of a plant-based eating pattern that supports healthier gut microbiome, that's great. But by itself, it's not a magical food. And so a lot of people have been very misled by, and people, my problem with that is, first of all, it's not true, but the second thing is you find people choking down food they hate because they think it has some magical property. And that's another thing I'm opposed to. I'll never forget, early in my career, I had a conversation with somebody. It was a follow-up conversation. I said, well, how's it going? She goes, it's okay. I said, well, you don't sound very excited. She goes, well, I'm eating green apples. I'm eating kale. I said, well, you don't like green apples or kale? She goes, no. I said, well, then why are you eating them? And I say, I don't like green apples either. All right? I don't eat them. Eat the food in the plant-based world that you like. Make this fun to do. Make it something that you will not mind doing for decades. That's where the benefit comes. Decades. All right? Okay, who's next? All right, we'll take you next. Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Popper. I wanted to ask you, now I have I've known of different family members and young kids who've tried different rounds of different medications, and I think we touched upon it yesterday a little bit. But what would you suggest with someone who is trying to go into the route of, with Crohn's disease, trying to get into the route, whether they're young or older, and I know it's very specific for each individual, but how would what can I suggest to them to do besides call you?
Well, that's what you have to do right now. 'Cause
Right.
we're the people who know how to do this.
Right.
And so the key is, and sometimes people say, well, got to talk to somebody in Columbus, and it's going to cost money. How much money does it cost to keep doing what you're doing with dreadful outcome? So we've trained a few practitioners around the country to do this, but unfortunately, we'd like to see this be the standard protocol. It's my dream. We are starting a longitudinal study of Crohn's and colitis patients. A colleague and I are writing up some of my case reports to publish in journals. They're just case reports, but we're going to scientifically document. And then we're going to start a longitudinal study, much like what Dr. Esselstyn did with his cardiac patients. And so we're hoping that will get more attention to this type of thing too. Okay, who else? Oh, we'll take you next. Microphone. Hello? Yeah. Oh, okay. Well, then, we have a second microphone? Oh, okay. All right, well, then you find somebody else to go next, and that'll lessen the time while you're asking me, okay?
Hi. I wanted to ask, you hear over and over how for your gut health you shouldn't eat, oh my gosh, you shouldn't eat, oh my gosh, yeah. You know what, you had a question.
Take a minute.
You should, I just completely lost
All
my
right, well, I'll tell you what, we'll take another
Okay.
question, I'll come back to you. All right, yes.
What about our soils being depleted and plant-based supplements?
Our soils have been depleted. I mean, there's no question that farming is not well practiced in this country, and I think at some point in time we're going to have to change it. But this depleted soil thing has become one of the things that has fueled the sale of dietary supplements. You know, Dr. Esselstyn and his amazing results, no dietary supplements. All that bad soil, still growing food that Esselstyn's patients are staying alive on for 30 years. Same thing with John McDougall, same thing with many other practitioners, Neil Barnard and the research that he's publishing. We have no requirements in our Crohn's and colitis program for people to have to eat organic foods or take supplements because the food is not nutritious enough to heal them. So here's what I have to say about this, and we have to make sure that we're not mixing our drinks. If we were having a conference about farming, we'd be talking a lot about what needs to happen in order for farming to be sustainable and to save the planet, yes? This is a conference about human health, and we have to make sure that we're telling people what they need to do in order to improve human health. And so the farming, the bad soil issue doesn't mean that the food that you're getting at your local Kroger store is insufficient for you to be able to heal up and maintain your body.
Do you eat organic?
What's that?
Do you eat organic?
Yes and no. I mean, to the extent that I can, I do. I think the important thing to remember, and I do it, by the way, is not because I think that my health will suffer as much as I would like to support local farmers and sustainable farming. But I don't prescribe organic food for a couple of reasons. It is unaffordable by many people. You know, when a head of cauliflower reaches about $6 or $7, you just knock everybody out of the game. And it's not available everywhere. So we can't set people up to fail at this. And I see a lot of that going on in here. We're setting people up to fail. Let's give them 25 restrictions they can't possibly do for a lifetime, and let's make it so expensive and difficult that nobody will stick with it. That's so counterproductive to what we want to do. You know what people say about me who hang out with me after a while? And when I go someplace new, they say, "You're just like a regular person." Yep, I am. I can eat at the buffet for breakfast this morning. I mean, I am just like a regular person, and I'm pretty health conscious. I mean, I make my living doing this, right? So I'm not out there eating cheeseburgers and French fries on the side when nobody's looking. But the point is that we have to teach people to be able to function everywhere, economically and logistically. Okay. Now, did you think of what you wanted? Thank you.
What I wanted to ask is, you hear today about how you should eat gluten-free.
Mhm.
Okay. My question was, should you actually be eating gluten-free
No.
if you
This is
don't have any kind
This
of
whole
stomach
issue of
digestion
gluten-free
issue?
has been that we've fanned the flames on this gluten issue. Really, what the impetus has been a lot of quacks, I'll just say it, who told you that gluten's bad for everybody. William Davis and David Perlmutter being the kings of the whole deal. And I think it goes to the fact that Perlmutter and William Davis are celebrated by medical doctors who think that these people have the secret to health. And I'll tell you what, Perlmutter's book, I told you yesterday about Davis's book. We matched up all the references, and his references support what I'm telling you, not what he has to say. And in addition to that, I didn't say this yesterday, we found so many references that weren't even about wheat. He's telling everybody to stop eating wheat. You look at the reference, and we did word searches. You can't even find wheat in the article that he cited. Perlmutter's book was so bad. You know, I own a school, as I told you earlier, and we're pretty rigorous. The students have to really rise to the occasion and learn how to do the research the way I do it. If somebody in my school turned in a paper of as poor quality as Perlmutter's book, Grain Brain, they would be told that they have one more opportunity to turn in an appropriate level of work or they're expelled from school. Okay? This is how bad that book is in terms of the science. So this is the only good thing that's come out of the stupid gluten thing is that the market for good gluten-free foods has gotten better. So the poor celiac patients who used to eat cardboard don't have to do that anymore, right? So that's the good thing that's come out of it. Thank you. All right. Next question. Who has the mic? Does somebody have the mic? Okay.
I wanted to ask
Oh, I think you asked a question before. All right,
No,
we'll
I
get
didn't.
real quick one because we want to get
No, I
everything.
didn't.
Oh, okay.
But
Oh, I'm sorry. Let's be- okay.
Getting back to the acid, alkaline, maybe 25 years ago, I heard a doctor saying he was fighting cancer, Ribisi, I think was his name, by creating, cancer can't live in an acid, likes an acid environment, can't live in an alkaline environment. So he was treating cancer that way. So
Yeah.
let me just finish though. Now, at Stony Brook University, I think her name is Dr. Barbara Thompson, maybe. Nature Nurture, she does a lot of research with cancer, trying to get to that whole thing. I might have it wrong, but I asked her that question, and she says she doesn't think so, but she says in an alkaline environment, your immune system can probably work better.
Well, that's ridiculous too.
Okay, so
First
I
of all,
wanna
the
hear your take on it.
cancer can exist in an alkaline environment. Well, the blood cancers do just fine. Okay. Leukemia did not get the memo on that. All right, they're doing just fine. So this is again this simplistic, trying to boil this all down into a soundbite that is just it's really disappointing and misleading. Okay. Somebody over here. Shouldn't we get somebody on this side? So we're, right in the back there. We don't get enough people in the back.
Hi. I have a newborn baby that's 3 months, and he takes formula, so I wanted a recommendation on a particular probiotic brand that you feel is effective and, you know.
Yeah. See me afterwards. All right. We'll talk about that afterwards. All right. Instead of in front of the group. We'll take a couple more. I know my time's up, but, I'm not ready to stop yet. So, I have the microphone. So here we go. Anybody want to keep going for just a little bit longer? All right. We're going to do it. All right. So how about up here? And then back there.
Hello. So I'm following a lot about all the plant-based diet information for a long time. In this conference, in the beginning, we had the people from Hippocrates, Dr. Brian Clement, and there was another doctor. So he was talking a lot about cancer. There was another doctor, Gabriel something, talking about diabetes. And they both were very pro-raw diet and no fruit, which I feel is very limited. And they both brought like a lot of data to support, which I can't state.
Well,
I wanted to hear your opinion about it.
Well, I haven't seen any data that convinces me. Okay. And furthermore, why are we making this so hard? The people in Okinawa never got the message that all the food has to be raw. They eat mostly cooked food. The people in Northern Africa never got the memo, you eat only fruit. Okay, so we're making this more difficult than it needs to be. I mean, with all due respect to my colleagues who've spoken at the conference, and I know everybody's trying to do the best to help other people, but I think we do the best to help other people when we make it available to other people, when we make people say, you know what, I could see myself doing that, all right? And I think I could do it for longer than a week. That's the key, all right? Well, people who are very sick, once you get them well, they have to stay well for 50 years, all right? So that's, I mean, you bring up a really good point, and it's true that people who are very sick often have to eat more restricted diets. But, I'm going to give you some counter-argument to this. Kelly Turner wrote a book called Radical Remission, and she's the first person who ever did a study of terminal cancer patients to see how they stayed alive. What did they do to stay alive? She interviewed 1,000 of them. Not a small number. She was able to identify 75 different strategies used by cancer patients, and 9 that they all used. 1,000 people who didn't know each other all did the same 9 things, all right? And what she found is that cancer patients, first of all, adopt a plant-based diet, but not always vegan. But they did 8 other things in addition that were key to their survival. And one of them was they took a good look at the way that they were living their lives and some of the ways in which their lifestyles outside of the diet may have impacted their illness. And so I remember one guy, he was a kidney cancer patient, terminal, was in the hospital dying, and he was sick from chemotherapy, so he went up to the roof to breathe fresh air, and they thought he was going to kill himself. So the hospital didn't want him to kill himself there, so they sent him home. Wonderful, compassionate approach to health, right? So they sent him home, and basically what happened is he started feeling better and started eating better. And he said he deliberately chose not to practice dietary perfection because he felt that one of the reasons why he had developed cancer was he had been an overachiever, overworker. Everything had to be perfect all the time. And that personality trait eventually made him sick, all right? So I think cancer patients should eat well. I think everybody should eat well. But I think sometimes this focus, almost near obsession about, am I doing it right? Am I doing it right? Am I doing it right? Did I eat enough raw? I think that almost becomes counterproductive to a person who's trying to make himself or herself whole again. So let's not practice dietary obsessionism. Let's practice dietary excellence. Those are two different things, all right? So did you have a follow-up? Yeah. Or did they shut us off? They're now serious about my getting off the stage.
If I just may add, it just said that his point was that fruit, sugar, including the sugar in fruit, keep the cancer cells growing.
Well, that's a very long discussion, and it's not true. By the way, all carbohydrate eventually becomes glucose or some derivative. So if you're going to try to starve out the cancer, you can't eat broccoli instead of strawberries and do it. This is, again, a complete lack of understanding of human function. So, and that doesn't mean that that's where water-only fasting may be appropriate, where intermittent fasting to potentiate chemotherapy. This is a whole other discussion that involves, first of all, understanding how a cancer cell becomes a cancer cell and how the glucose uptake works, and how the angiogenesis, and there's a lot of stuff involved in this. So you can't just tell people stop eating fruit because it fuels cancer. This is another one of those fantastical reductionist ideas that represents a complete lack of understanding of the whole etiology of the disease. Okay. All right, who has the mic? Yes, you.
I was just wondering if you could talk a little bit about possibly reversing diverticulosis.
Yeah, well, you have to stop doing the things that cause it, constipation and poor diet. You know, even the AGA's guidelines now say people don't need to stop eating seeds and that sort of thing. Antibiotic treatment's not warranted. So you reverse it by doing the opposite of what caused it. It's a diet-induced disease. So, Steve, are you wanting me to stop pretty soon? One more question, and then I promise I'll hang around. Just so you know, I put out a newsletter every Monday. I put out video clips on Tuesdays and Thursdays. If you'd like to get free information from me, I'll come sit right over here and be happy to talk to you for a while, all right? So one more question. Who has? All right, you got the mic.
I just have a question about, somebody told me that not everyone can do the vegan diet, that her friend was vegan, a man, and he was very overweight, and he went down to like 120 pounds.
Well, nobody taught him how to do it right.
And then he went to see a nutritionist who was supposedly a vegan nutritionist, and she said because he was Celtic origin, he had this gene, and that he should go back to eating meat.
Yeah, so she was an incompetent vegan dietitian.
I mean, that's not
right?
true. That's not true, right?
And I know, you know, one of the things, and I promise the next time I come back, you want me to come back? Okay, next time I come back, I promise I will work on being more direct in my comments, because I know sometimes it's just really hard to figure out what I'm saying. Thank you so much.